And we are live. Hey, everybody. This is Jennifer Moran, and we are here with another episode of Killin' It Collective. Woo-woo! So I'm super excited to be here tonight with you guys. I have a very special guest, somebody that I just adore, totally admire her. I met her in our mastermind group, but I'll get into that story here in a minute. Little housekeeping, first and foremost, because I see you guys are starting to load on. First and foremost, let us know where you're watching from. And of course, as always, since like 90% of the population watches this on replay, make sure you put replay in the comments if you're watching it on replay. And I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. If you happen to have a straw handy, like I just did, just a straw laying around, especially like a disposable one, grab it. It can be regular size. I just cut this one short because we're going to walk you guys through some breathing and relaxation exercises tonight with our incredible guest. So first of all, let me say hello to a few people. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Kavita. It's good to see you guys. I'm so excited. So let me jump in and tell you a little bit about my guest, Dr. Amy Novotny. I met Amy, gosh, when was it, Amy? Was it about a year ago now?
I think so, yeah. I think it was May of last year, yeah.
Yeah. So we met through an amazing inner circle group. It's basically a mastermind with Kyle Wilson, who was Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner. And we got to give a little shout out and a little love to Kyle. In fact, he's going to be with us, Amy, next week, he and Ron White. The two-time world memory champion. So I'm looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. But so I met Amy there. And what's so interesting about Amy is I just want to be Amy when I grow up. She is literally a doctor of physical therapy. She actually runs her own institute called it's PABR, which, what do those initials stand for again?
So pain, awareness, breathing, release. So I say PABR, just to make it easier, PABR Institute.
The PABR Institute's awesome. But yeah, doctor of physical therapy, which is incredible. And then on top of that, as you can see from some of the pictures up top there, she is an ultra marathoner, right? You have run 100-mile marathons, some 50-milers too, from what I understand, and then several full marathons.
Over 40 full marathons, several 50s, a couple, I think 100Ks, and then a couple 100-milers.
So. Wow, that is incredible. Yeah. Okay, well, like I just shared with Amy, P.S. by the way, she inspired me today. So I went out and I ran too, but it was like 3 miles. And I think I walked. So no 100-milers for this lady right here. I have run 4 half marathons. I got to pat myself on the back. They were not easy for me. So running 50 miles, 100 miles, wow, right? And then on top of that, as you can see, there's a picture there at the top of her with her incredible camera photographing a moose, which I can't believe you're that close, Amy, because those things are mean. They could be mean.
I know. I was very, very lucky. That was my Christmas miracle, that it didn't hurt me at all. I was so lucky. I literally was out there photographing it, and it was far away. And then it came up this hill so fast, I couldn't move. And it started examining some cars, licking the salt off of it. The cars left, and I thought it was going to go over the hill. So I just stood still, frozen, holding on to my camera. You can see one hand on my tripod, holding on for dear life so it wouldn't knock it over. And then it came right at me and touched the lens. Then it looked at me. It licked its lips as it was walking near my head, and its antler came 6 inches from my head, and I'm looking up at it, licking its lips, eyeing me. I was like,
oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I know, because they can be mean. They can bite you. So yeah, that's incredible. But you're an amazing photographer. In fact, one of I don't know if it was one or more, but I know you've had how many photographs now in National Geographic?
So I've had several of them liked by the editors and commented, but I just had one that was chosen first as their top. They do a daily dozen out of the whole entire world, where they do the top daily dozen. And then from there, the world votes on those images. And so mine was actually chosen as the top image of the day for all of National Geographic and posted on all their social media and stuff. And I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was so excited. I couldn't function. I was just like, I was not able to do anything for 2 days. Just jumped up and down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, so that's crazy. So give us a little brief history, if you would. First of all, hi, Debbie Gutierrez. So good to see you. Hello, Chad. Glad to have you with us tonight. Give us a little brief history of sort of your journey. Obviously you got your doctorate in physical therapy and then all these other things kind of transpired, but what led you to establish the PABR Institute?
So I was doing did physical therapy, traditional physical therapy in like sports and orthopedics, chronic pain for about 5 years. And then I was recruited to join another company where I became a director of the clinic, and they wanted me to start looking at taking some courses through the Postural Restoration Institute. And so in the physical therapy world, we know it as PRI. So they were my introduction into breathing and how there's various asymmetries in our body and how that affects mobility and pain. So I started studying with them, taking a lot of courses, and I loved what I was learning. It blew my mind, and I realized, okay, there's something different out here in this world, and it's not traditional physical therapy. Now, they are very hands-offish in their approach, and I was very hands-on before I met this group. And so I started combining the two things together. And so I would keep my hands on people, and I could feel what was going on. And so I started studying more about how the nervous system works and this fight or flight mode versus relaxation mode. And I started realizing if I changed the way I had someone breathe, and I practiced on myself first, and I started figuring out on myself, because all of a sudden I started running faster and faster marathons and had less and less pain. I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And I started playing with it on people. And if I taught them to breathe how I was doing on it myself while I was running a race, I could feel the tension in their muscles just give away. Like those knots in your neck, I could get rid of them in like 2 minutes. Whereas if you go to a massage therapist, they're pounding on you for a half hour, or even physical therapist, you're like stretching their neck to the side and pushing on it, doing a trigger point release. But I could get rid of these and it would just go like that. I was like, okay, there's something about this. I need to play with it more. And so I just started playing with it over several years. And then I got to the point where in 2015, I moved to a different company, and I was able to experiment on more people. And it just kept getting better and better results. We started getting people out of knee replacement surgeries who had no hope. They're bone on bone, getting injections on medications. I could get them out of a surgery. And then it happened where a very well-known news executive here in town, she had some disc issues, numbness or tingling, and scheduled for surgery. Barrow's Neurological was saying, nope, you are guaranteed to have surgery. And I said, what if we could get you out of it? And the lady was like, no, that's not a possibility. And after a month, she's like, okay, I canceled surgery. And it just kept happening more and more. And then, I'm experimenting with it in the athletic world. And so it came to a point where a world famous photographer heard about me and flew in from Florida to get treatment and wanted me to get him out of a knee replacement surgery. And so I said, sure. So we did that. And then he went home, he tripped and fell, tore a rotator cuff, biceps tendon, couldn't lift his arm like this, flew back, and I got him within a couple days up overhead. And he's like, okay, I want to hire you for a year. So I gave up everything. And at that time, I was like, maybe I'll become a photographer and do that full time, because I was just exploring stuff. So I then, I literally gave up all my life. I quit my job. I rented out my house. I gave up everything. I just started dating someone. I'm like, I'm sorry. And off I went. And and the photographer had a girlfriend who we met and traveled Europe for 6 weeks. And so I would coach him on different things, daily, on how to calm himself down to keep himself pain-free. And I did that for 6 months until I ended up in Antarctica. And that was the main goal, was he wanted to be able to land on sea ice, cross sea ice for over a mile and be pain-free and be able to photograph the emperor penguins, which you can see in photos above me, or behind me, I should say. And so once that was done, I was like, I need to get back and start my life over. And so I came back, sold my house, and decided to start PABR Institute, and have just been working on growing and sharing this message and letting people know there are options out there. You can gain control of your body again. And it's a combination of breath work and body work. It's not just breath work. A lot of people think you can do so much good with just breath work, but when you combine it with changing the way your body's positioned and how you feel, oh my God, the world just opens up to you. It's just so different. So.
Wow, that's huge. Now, I know within the mastermind group that you and I are part of, and I mean, we've got so many incredible people in there. I mean, we've got a 2-time Grammy winner, an 8-time Emmy-winning sportscaster. We've got, just athletes, best-selling authors, multi-million-dollar real estate investors. I mean, just the list goes on and on. A pediatric orthopedic surgeon. I mean, we've got so many people. And some of these superstars, I know when Lisa Haisha came in, who has her own show on Amazon and spoke to our group, she was in an enormous amount of pain, and you were able to work with her and relieve that pain. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, I know there's probably a little patient confidentiality there too, but you've worked with some pretty high-level people, out there out in Arizona, correct?
I'm in Arizona, yes. And I can tell a little bit about that because she's actually filming a documentary called Soul Blazing, where she documents going around to different healers and different experts in various fields and meeting them and interacting with them. And so she actually filmed me for her movie. So what I'm telling you, if it makes the cut into her movie, I don't know if that is or not. But we did go through that, and her producer was filming us the whole entire time. And she even shared it on Facebook as well, that she had done some exercises earlier in the week. Basically, her back froze up on her. She had to be wheelchaired through the airport to get on the plane. And I was on the phone meeting her and giving her advice over the phone. I want you to breathe and do this, let your belly out, and all these things. And so when she got to Dallas, I arrived the next morning, and I went straight to her room and just started working on her, helping her body calm down so that her back muscles learn to let go. And so it's interesting. A lot of people emulate people who are high profile, have a lot of success. But the one thing I tell people is, with all that success comes a lot of injury to their body, and not injury in the sense of, ow, I hurt myself. It's a matter of their body, all that success leads to a lot of stress that goes into their physical body. And it puts them at this threshold. And when another new stressor comes, for her, it was lifting something wrong during an exercise, it pushed her over the threshold, and her body's like, enough. We're going into protective mode, no matter what position you're in, and we're going to stay there. And that's basically what happened. With her pelvis was too far tipped forward, her chest was up too much, her ribs were out too much, and they were flared, her back tightened up, and she didn't know how to let go. So we worked through that and calming her body down. And as she calmed down, she could feel it release. Now, she did better and better as the day went on. She was able to walk and present and do all these things, and she wasn't in a wheelchair anymore, and it was fabulous. And you saw her present. And then what happened was she, everything was going well. She didn't have it fully cemented into her body. So when she slept, it reverted back to the way she was. So we had to start again the next morning. It wasn't as bad as the previous morning, but it had to coach her through, because when you go through something like that, it's traumatic. And when you have a lot of pain, you're not in, how do I learn how to get this out? It's fix me. And so she was in fix me mode. And so we got that, but then we had to spend some time over the next couple of days. How does she learn to sense what I was teaching so she can control her body so it doesn't happen again? And so she can learn how to relieve the pain and the immobility herself. And that's part of everyone's journey, is how to relieve all of that and gain control over your body again.
Wow. Well, now that's powerful. So why don't we try a little exercise and kind of give us all an idea? Because I will say, just, you know, I had looked into, and maybe we can kind of discuss this after the fact, but I'd looked into some breathing exercises just to combat anxiety, because sometimes when I had a particularly stressful day and had to jump on a plane, that anxiety would kick in, and I almost developed like a little fear of flying. I had to have a couple of MRIs at one point, and that's really when I started to look up how to breathe, because I didn't want to panic in the MRI. So we'll talk about that here in a minute, but why don't you walk us through now? For you guys, hey, Steve Lloyd. Steve says, Amy is awesome. She is awesome.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Steve, you're awesome. Steve's incredible. He is the founder and CEO of Stone Bay Holdings, one of our multi-million-dollar real estate investors. Hey, Sylvia from Harlingen. Hey, Kavita. Hey, Chad. Hey, Tim. Tim Swart. Good to see you out of California. So if you guys have a straw handy, go grab a straw real quick. We'll give you, you know, a few seconds, run. And then we'll get you out of breath, right? No. And then we'll give you some more breathing. But go get a straw if you can. And Amy's going to walk us through an exercise that she actually, when we do our inner circle events, she opens up, Kyle opens up the events. We usually do a meditation. And then Amy comes in and kind of helps us all sort of calm our nervous system, ground ourselves, and kind of get our bodies in better positions. And, you know, just from that little exercise, a lot of people have commented afterwards that they came in pain and suddenly they weren't in pain anymore. So it's pretty cool. So grab your straw and let's get going.
Sure. And I've actually branched this past year into teaching this to people who have stress and anxiety attacks. And just even recently branching out to helping people with the COVID virus. And so there's a lot of ways to apply this. And so what we'll do, we'll just kind of go through the basics of it today. And so we're using a straw because it helps us direct our air in a certain way. And I'll just give a tiny, tiny bit of background. So what we're doing in doing all of this type of breathing is, first, we have to get our rib cage back into a neutral position. This sets us up to using our diaphragm in a better way. So when we think about all that we've been taught over the years, we think suck your gut up to hold a nice strong core, chest out, shoulders back, get your back flat, you know, make sure that whole area is flat. Let's be, you know, strong and powerful. Hear me roar. You know, that's exactly.
Yeah.
And I tell people, when you do that, guess what? When you do all that, you lift up your ribs. So when you inhale, you have to lift up your ribs to get air in, because you've lost the ability to use your side abs to hold your ribs down. And guess what? Your side abs provide support for your diaphragm to be used. So every time you lift up, then when you go to breathe in, you have to use all these neck, shoulder, back muscles to lift things up. And then we wonder why we have so much tension and pain in those areas, because we're overusing them. We're hinging off of our low back, and that creates a lot of stress to our body. The first thing I tell people is let your belly out. I know no one wants to do that, but guess what? If we're all in quarantine right now, no one's going to see your belly. So this is the perfect time to practice. Yeah. Why not, right? So first, I want everyone to sit back in their chair. Let their low back relax into the chair back. Let your belly hang out. Let your tailbone kind of curl underneath you so your pelvis is rotating backwards. And then ideally, we'd like your feet flat on the floor so that your heels are touching the floor. If they're not, try to find a platform, whether it's a book, a phone book, if those still exist, a wooden plank, something to put under your feet so your knees are at the level of your hips. Okay. And as we do this, this will help us stay grounded, and it allows our body to relax by just having our body in this position. So, okay, now you have your straw. And when we do the straw, we're gonna put it between our lips. Try not to bite it with your teeth. You can cut the straw in half to make it a little bit easier to hold. And we don't wanna use our teeth because we don't wanna recruit our jaw muscles. So many of us have too much tension in our jaw muscles. It leads to headaches, migraines, TMJ issues, neck issues. a lot of these breathing exercises, I do it with so many people. I get them from dentists who say they have a tooth pain, and then we fix it, just be it by learning how to breathe differently, or sleep apnea issues. All of those things we address just by getting you to stop using your jaw muscles incorrectly. So I use a paper straw, one, because it's eco-friendly, but two, I put it between my lips. I can catch myself if I bite down on it with my teeth, because it leaves teeth marks. So that's another reason to use a paper straw, is because you can touch yourself and find out how much you're actually recruiting your jaw muscles when you shouldn't be. So, okay. So we'll put the straw in our mouth, and then I'm going to demonstrate. I'll go through the 4 steps, and I'm going to demonstrate just a couple breaths, just so you guys can take it in. What I want you to watch for is, I'm not going to lift up. I'm not going to move. I'm just going to stay still and allow the breathing process to happen. So the first step is breathing in through the nose. Then I'm going to pause a second, blow out through the mouth, and then pause 3 seconds, holding my breath. So it's in the nose, pause a second, blow out through the mouth and straw, then hold the breath and pause 3 seconds. So I'm going to demonstrate 2 breaths with that, and then we'll coach all of you guys. So here we go. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is take you guys through that and just coach you through that and help you gain a little bit of the basics of these skills so that you can start practicing this. And so please join us right now. If you have a straw, I see Frank has a straw. So Frank, please stick that in your mouth right now, but not between your teeth, only between your lips.
And Amy, don't you say sometimes it helps to put one hand on your chest and a hand on your belly?
Yep. So we're going to do one hand on our chest, right over our breastbone, or sternum, as I say. The other hand right over your belly, so covering right over your belly button. Okay. And so what we're going to do is, as you blow out, we're going to try to sink away from your hand on your chest. So your chest is going to go in, trying to get away from your hand. Your belly is going to spill out. That's as we're exhaling. So let's just get into a rhythm, and I'll coach you through it. So first,
and I have to add that it feels unnatural at first because we're so used to sucking our gut in. Like I notice sometimes I can sink my chest, but I have to almost consciously let my belly out.
Yeah. Because when you're sucking your belly in, that's going to lift up your rib cage, and it's going to require you to breathe differently. So we're working on getting you to use your diaphragm.
Okay.
So here we go. Straw in your mouth, and we're going to breathe in through your nose. Pause and blow out through the mouth or straw, allowing your chest to drop down away from your hand, and allowing your belly to spill out. Then hold your breath. 2, 3, gentle breath in your nose to your throat, kind of filling up your throat with air. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest drop down and in. Your ribs drop down, and let your belly spill out. Hold. 2, 3, gentle breath in your nose to your throat, thinking about the air going only to your throat, not lifting anything else up. Pause and blow out. Feel your breastbone melt under your hand. Feel your pecs relax as your armpits relax and your belly spills out. Hold. 2, 3. Gentle breath in your nose to your throat, keeping your neck relaxed. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest drop down and in. Feel your ribs soften under your hand as your low back relaxes further into the chair and your belly spills out. Hold. 2, 3. Gentle breath in your nose to your throat, keeping your shoulders relaxed. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest drop down and in. melting away from your hand and your shirt. Allow your belly to spill out as your buttocks relaxes further into that chair. Hold. 2, 3. Gentle breath in your nose to your throat, keeping your shoulder and neck relaxed. Pause and blow out. Feel your sternum drop down and in. Feel your chest sinking away from your shirt. Your ribs drop down and your low back relaxes. Hold. 2, 3. Gentle breath in your nose to your throat, keeping your neck relaxed. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest soften in. Feel your armpits relax as you settle further into that chair. Hold. 2, 3. Gentle breath in your nose to your throat, keeping your shoulders down. Pause and blow out. Feel your chest drop down and in. Feel your ribs drop down and let that belly come out. Hold. 2, 3, and pause. Take a break.
Wow. Like I'm asleep right now.
I know, it calms me down really nicely. So doing this before bed is excellent for helping with sleep. It really is.
And I find that I'm fighting my shoulders, which I'm told by massage therapists, I hold all my tension in my shoulders, but I feel myself when I breathe in wanting to lift my shoulders. And you said that comes from just being tight and holding that stress in those muscles, which you said can lead to shoulder pain and all kinds of other issues.
Yeah, and it can. And the other thing is when your ribs are elevated, your shoulders have a tendency to be higher. So it's hard for people who have elevated ribs, like you were mentioning that your belly, it's hard to let your belly go. You're used to sucking it in, which elevates your ribs, which means your shoulders are going to be higher. So to get air in, you lift up your shoulders to help expand your ribs to get air in. So part of for you is really working on allowing this relaxation in the armpits. And you can even put your hand right in your armpits, and as you're exhaling, try to get your armpits to soften away from your hand, and it will help you allow your shoulders to drop down. And then what you want to do is keep it in that position when you inhale, which is going to make you feel like you can't get any air in, but you keep practicing it little bits at a time. Just do 2 or 3 breaths so you don't panic about getting air in. Just do 2 or 3 where you feel like you can't get air in, and then all of a sudden it's like a switch. And you'll feel you can start to get more air in, and you don't rely on your shoulders to get to breathe, to inhale anymore.
Wow.
It's a radical shift, but it does take some practice. And so I tell people little bits at a time, and especially if you feel like you can't get air in, just do little bits at a time so you don't go into panic mode, but just realize you can shift all of this about your breathing. Just like you can shift how you walk. We don't walk the same as when we were little kids. We develop habits that are not always the best. Same thing happens with your breathing pattern. If your body is changing and you can see it in your walking, the same thing's going to happen with your breathing too. So we have to shift you back to like when you're a kid again.
Yeah, and that was powerful when you said that in the mastermind group, that if you look at toddlers when they're 3, 4 years old, they're running around with all their little bellies hanging out, not because they have beer bellies, but just because that's the natural best position, believe it or not, for your spine. And yet, as you know, I know when my kids were little, I'm guilty of it. I was always like, sit up straight, watch your posture. But you were actually saying, no, that's really counter, to what is really good for you.
Yeah, and it truly is. And it was funny, a really poignant time was I was treating a client at the home, and I was explaining all this, and the person showed me a picture of a grandchild, the toddler, and it was, kind of one of the naked baby photos. And I said, look at belly out, ribs down. I'm like, yeah. Proof right there in your home. We got to get you back to that, because think about it. When you suck up your gut all the time, you're putting pressure on all of your organs. we have a lot of digestive issues in our lives. We're shoving things where they shouldn't be. We're not giving those organs space to move around and to be where they should be. And if we're going to shove them in areas where they shouldn't be, other things are going to have, it's going to cause a problem. So I try to get people, you got to let your belly out so your ribs can go down into position and you're not crunching on organs that shouldn't be crunched on. And then after you can get everything back in neutral, then you can work on tightening up that belly button area. But I tell people, wait until you can sense everything first. Then if you need to pose for a picture, tighten it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and Frank made a great comment, and it's something I realized as well in going through these exercises with you. You may not even do it on the first round, but slowly as you start to pay more attention, you realize if you're really doing it properly, that your glutes will kind of relax and you'll really sink into that chair, and it's so relaxing. And you don't even really realize that you're clenching so much stuff throughout the day. Your jaws, you've got your shoulders. Like I tend to have my shoulders up, and I'll catch myself now, thanks to you, and I'll go, oh, okay. I need to relax. Same thing with my rear end. I hate to say that. But
yes.
They don't call me J-Mo just because it's short for Moran. Just saying. I got a lot of and I tend to crunch that area quite a bit. So
well, and it's true. And one of the things I coach people on is let your pants fall off. Let them fall off. Let your butt crack show. It won't. But you got to stop the muscles that are holding up your pants abnormally high when you have a waistband that's supposed to do that. But we use our muscles to do that. So that's another good practice.
Exactly. Now, you did some exercises even in our mastermind where you had people get up out of a chair. Now, what was all that about? Like, it was the way we stand up. You were saying that the natural way we stand up actually makes pain worse. And then I want to address a question too. Kavita, I haven't forgotten about you, honey. She's got some knee pain and she wants to ask you how she can address that through breathing. And I will say this, Amy, for some reason, you've gotten really blurry.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know why. Nothing has changed on my end that I know of.
Okay. Well, everything else is clear on my end, but you look blurry.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Am I still blurry?
It's kind of like, when Wi-Fi slows down a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if that did just because it's that time of the night. I wonder if I have more light. Does that help?
We can see you and we can hear you.
Okay. It's just a little bit blurry.
Not a little bit. Not that, there's probably millennials on here who won't remember this, but you look a little like Max Headroom kind of right now from the 80s where you're.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure. It must just be so many people are on now.
Yeah.
But we'll still go over those questions. Hopefully you can see through the blurriness where I'll just move very slowly.
Yeah. Well, share about that, because that was so super interesting to me, how the way we get up can actually cause back pain.
Yeah. So I tell people we're very back dominant. So because we lift up our chest, pull our shoulders back, and we're always used to trying to straighten our back and flatten it and keep everything tight. When we go to bend over, we arch our back, stick our butt, and we stand up with our back very arched because we think we're holding it straight and still, and it's going to help us. When in fact, we're actually doing more damage to it because we're adding more compressive forces to the spine and the disc. So instead, what I tell people is let's learn how to use our legs. So I say, round out your back, let it relax into the chair back, or you're going to slide forward first, but pretend there's a chair back there. Let your back round out, let your belly spill out, then lean forward over your knees and feel your heels push into the ground and stand up. And guess what? You're going to actually feel your thighs work for the first time to stand up.
Wow. It's almost like a workout.
Yeah, you can use it as a workout. I'm like, this is a great workout. Yeah. So then the same thing when you sit back down is let your belly out, round out, let your butt kind of curl under you as you stick it backwards. And all of a sudden you're going to feel your thighs work as you lower yourself down. And guess what? You didn't use your back to do that. And you're going to start to feel your thighs more than your back. And it's a huge shift.
I guess the analogy of that, and maybe I just am thinking this because my husband owns his own heavy construction equipment company, and they do a lot of like air tools, accessories, hydraulics. And he was working on a pair of like hydraulic like shocks the other day, and it's almost like, you know, when you're opening up something that has that air spring hydraulic where it opens very, very controlled, versus if it weren't there, it would shut real hard or open real hard. I guess that's the way your quads kind of work. They work like a hydraulic to kind of lower you easily, but we tend to skip over that.
Yeah. So all muscles have two types of contraction. Concentric is when they shorten, and eccentric is when they lengthen. And what you're talking about is an eccentric contraction. So you're lengthening as you're lowering yourself using your quads, and you're doing a lengthening contraction. And it's actually it's a stronger and more powerful type of contraction to help you move your body. But we lose the sense of using them so much in our life. There are many muscles we sense losing and not using them. And our back just becomes our primary mover for things. Obviously, our legs are still involved, but the dominant force of moving you is your back. And when it shouldn't be, to stand up and sit down, you shouldn't be using your back other than your back muscles should balance with your side abdominal muscles just to hold you in a stable position, but your legs should be moving you up and down. So it's a very powerful way. And it's shocker, just like you felt it. When people go through this and they really get their back to turn off, they're like, oh my gosh, my legs are so weak. It's like you're just not used to their legs actually doing that work.
Yeah, it's like a controlled lift. And most people just kind of throw themselves up there using their back, and it's not good. I get it. Now, so address Kavita's question real quick. What about people that aren't dealing with shoulder or back pain that is more torso related? What if they've got extremity pain, maybe in their wrists or their elbows or their knees or their ankles? How do you address that through breathing?
So it totally works. And I can give an example of a knee replacement or even a finger. I worked with a lady who had finger pain, and this is when I worked in a clinic for someone else, and I was told to do finger exercises. And I said, after doing that for a day and she still had pain, I said, would you like to learn how to really get rid of this and learn how to breathe differently? And she's like, yeah. So I went and taught her how to breathe and how to let her shoulder go, and her finger pain went away. So same thing that happens. Yeah. And she didn't need a surgery. So how you set up your trunk, your extremities follow. So if I'm in this posture where I pulled myself out of a position, guess what? Now the pressure of my body weight shifts. So if my pelvis, so here I am, if I'm in neutral and I go stick my chest out and arch my back, I've now tilted my pelvis forward, which changes the orientation at my hips. So now my hips have less space. My body weight now shifts over the front of my feet. And guess what? The body weight goes down through my knees. So it encourages you how to not use your hamstrings, and you forget how to use them. And it also causes a lot of knee pain. And so part of it is, I always talk to people, when you have extremity pain, we have to work on the trunk first. So you can work on letting your belly out, let your pelvis shift back under you, get your weight on your heels, and practice the breathing in a relaxed position, seated first, in a very comfortable seated position. Then there's other exercises to work on doing the breathing while activating your hamstrings so that your pelvis stays in neutral. So when you walk and move and squat, you're not getting the knee pain. And so everyone's different when it comes to what's wrong with their extremities, but you can do the same stuff and use the breathing to calm down your nervous system and learn how to sense letting certain muscles go and activating others. So that's kind of how you would address the knee pain. Everyone's different. So Kavita might need something a little bit more specific to her, but she can get started easily on working on this breathing to calm down her nervous system, sense her ribs going down, sense her low back relaxing. That might get rid of all of her pain. She'll probably need a little bit of work on learning how to sense her hamstrings without activating her back muscles, which is very difficult to achieve, but completely possible. You just need to be very aware and practice. So.
So she's also asking, what if you have a brace, like a knee brace? Does that change how your knee is going to react? Or maybe if you have a back brace, should you take those off if you're doing the exercises, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the situation. If the brace is for something that's chronic and you're doing something like laying down, practicing the breathing, or sitting doing the breathing, you don't need the brace on. Now, it really depends on why you have that brace. If it's something you just injured and you're using the brace because you can't even move, then you might keep the brace on while you're doing the breathing exercises. Most of the exercises they give, you're in a one position, so you don't need a brace. The brace is typically used for when you're moving. So most doctors are going to say when you're sitting still, you don't need the brace on, unless the brace is managing swelling or something like that. So it's really person dependent. But I typically recommend people not to wear braces if they're past the flare-up stage of an injury and they're working on learning how to use their muscles. Because a lot of times braces will actually encourage you not to sense and feel your muscles because you let the brace do the work. And then people become dependent on them for the rest of their lives because they become fearful. They go into a neuroprotective mode and they forget how to use the muscles that they need to support them. So you have several reasons that are going against you to get away from that brace. Now, I would recommend working.
I guess because the brain is doing everything it can to protect you. So it'll have you like, it's kind of, I guess, similar to when somebody injures, let's say, their left leg, and they tend to favor it by putting everything on their right leg. But ironically, they're doing themselves more harm than good because in favoring that left leg, it never allows the muscle to really get some exercise, get stretched, and potentially heal.
Yeah, so like here's an example, and I don't recommend you doing this until you know until you fully understand everything I'm talking about. So yesterday, over the weekend, I was running in the mountains, running up and down trails, rocks, stumbling, and I stepped on a rock, and the rock gave way, and so it twisted my ankle, and so obviously that hurt, sprained my ankle, whatever. And so I stopped a second, I was like, okay, breathe and calm down. Then I walked and breathed, kept calm. It hurt, and I could feel as long as I was breathing through it and I was calming myself down. What was happening was my muscles were normalizing, and so I was getting the muscles to work in their normal pattern instead of everything guarding. I was giving permission for the ones that would have guarded and kept me still. Was saying, okay, it's okay. You don't have to guard. Let the normal muscle patterns work. After 2 or 3 minutes, I was able to start running again. I kept doing the breathing, started a slow trot, went faster. By the time I finished, I was pain-free. For like an hour that day, I could feel little tweaks if I just moved it wrong, but I completely forgot about it. And I actually forgot about it. That was on Saturday. I completely forgot about it until I was speaking to another group today, and I remembered. I was like, oh yeah, the ankle sprain. So you can use it to get you out of stuff. I've used it for people coming out of surgery who are going in a neuroprotective mode and they've forgotten their pain meds. And so we calm them down and you can get a shoulder rotator cuff repair all the way overhead day 3 post-op. It's literally how to calm yourself down so you don't need these other devices so that you don't go in this guarding mode.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if somebody wants to reach you for a consultation, I know you were saying earlier today that you'll do little 15-minute or so free consultations initially. They need to email you, correct? At the email address we're running at the bottom. You guys feel more than welcome to do that. I know Amy sometimes goes above and beyond for everyone. And even though you're out in Arizona, you still have a lot of clients that you work with remotely or virtually, correct?
Yeah, so I'm doing virtual sessions right now from people all over the U.S. Sometimes I have international clients as well. Yeah, I worked with someone from England the other day. So I work with people all over. And so as long as I can see you and have you move and have you lie down, we can address all of your issues and go through if you have pains, stress, anxiety, whatever. If you want the one-on-one attention where I can see what's going on with your body and I can identify it and give you certain positions or things to work on, we can customize a program for you. So that's the possibility, definitely.
That's awesome. So in addition, they can also go to your website, which is the PABRinstitute.com, PABR Institute.com. And you have a book, Don't Quit.
It's stories of persistence, faith, and courage. And so it kind of tells my story and just certain things that I've learned along this journey of becoming an entrepreneur. And so if they want a free copy of the ebook, they can email me for that as well. And the last thing is I am doing just the basic breathing nightly during the week in my Facebook group, and they're welcome to join that as well, the PABR Method Wellness Group. And that will actually be starting in 9 minutes.
Okay, so in 9 minutes. So we got to get you going. So it's the PABR, I'm typing it in for everybody. Okay.
PABR Method Wellness Group. It's a private group, but if they go on and add themselves, I can click accept.
Okay, and I guess they can also too, I don't know if you ask questions in there, but maybe they could mention that they saw you on Killin It Collective, and that way they'll know to let you in. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I put that in the comments so everybody can see that, which will be great. And any closing words, anything you want to say that that you feel needs to be said, because you truly are killing it right now. So
thank you. Well, first, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate that. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity for letting me help your friends and your followers, because I know how kind you have been to me and how much you care. And so I just thank you so much for giving me this chance. And just to everyone watching, listening, please realize that you have so much power over your bodies and how you feel. And sometimes we just need the support of someone else to guide us to that way. Sometimes we don't know things about our bodies because we've forgotten it or we just didn't know it. And so giving me the chance to help you is something I really appreciate tonight. And just know, before you get cut open with a surgery, please talk to someone, whether it's me or someone else. There are other options out there. There's so many people who've been saved from surgeries. And if you're having trouble with stress and anxiety in these times, reach out to people like Jennifer and me, because we really do care and we want to help, and we will give you any resources we can, because this is what this time is what we need to bond together and not go apart, especially even though we're social distancing. We can still come together even better than before. So,
yeah, I've told everybody, I think it's like God gave us a giant reset in some ways. For those, I mean, obviously there's people that are suffering and had to deal with the virus. I've actually had some friends that had to deal with it, believe it or not, because there's some people out there that think it doesn't exist, but it does. And so for them, they didn't get a giant reset, but for the rest of us, we did. And you got to look for the silver lining and the blessing in that. Well, I got to let you jump so you can get in your group. But we so appreciate you, Amy. You have a God-given gift, and I just want to thank you for sharing that with us tonight. And I love all you guys who have jumped on tonight for Killin It Collective. We will see you next week with Kyle Wilson, Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner, best-selling author. He's amazing, has a brand new podcast, which Amy's going to be on it, The Success Habits of Super Achievers, along with Ron White, 2-time world memory champion, who travels the world writing out names of the fallen in the Afghanistan conflict from start to finish from memory. So you want to see that and learn some tips on, I'm the worst with names. I always say that. So if nothing else, tune in so you can learn how to remember somebody's name at a party and remember it next time you see them when you run into them in the grocery store. So we appreciate you guys. We love y'all. Stay safe, Amy. And I can't wait to see you soon and hug your neck.
I know. Hugs from afar. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Good night, everybody.
Bye.